It's Scott Penfold here with you for another edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. And this week I'm going to be talking with the vocalist of the band Chunk No Captain Chunk, and his name is Bertrand Poncet. Now, Chunk No Captain Chunk, you may have heard of them, not just from the movie Goonies, of course, it's a quote from that movie, but these guys are a really killer band out of Paris. If you haven't heard of them before, think pop punk meets metal with a little bit of post-hardcore in there. And they've got the new album called Gone Are the Good Days, which came out back on July 30th of this year, and that's their first album in 6 years since Get Lost, Find Yourself, which came out in 2015. Also, in the second portion of the podcast, I'll be joined by Loaded Radio's Johnny Rude. He's down there in Las Vegas, and we'll get him on to talk about the week that was in hard rock and metal. But first off, like I was saying, we're going to be talking to this guy here. He is the frontman for the band Chunk No Captain Chunk, who have the new album Gone Are the Good Days out now. It's their fourth studio album. Joining us now from Paris, France, is the vocalist for that band, Bertrand Poncet. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today, Bert.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Hey, not a problem at all, man. Now, the fourth LP, it's called Things Won't Go How You Planned. Before we get into the music and the content, tell me about the album title.
So, Gone Are the Good Days. Well, you know, that this entire album is kind of like, like the main idea that kind of like triggered some like the first songs we started to write was just like, we wanted to trigger some nostalgia to all of us, you know. And I guess with like 2020, with the pandemic and all of that, we felt like we all needed to cheer us up somehow, you know. And I feel like, we all needed to maybe remember the good old days, take a step back, and looking back at those like good old memories with friends, with families, at shows and all of that, just to as if we were trying to remember like, the good old days, but also the kind of like the world as it was like 2 years ago, and how the situation is right now. I feel like the world has changed somehow, and so I think the nostalgia was kind of like the main thing for the album. Like I'm not saying that all of the songs are talking about that specific topic, but like I can see like for at least like 3 songs, it's kind of like a very obvious topic. But I'm very glad that just looking at the comments that we had on the album so far, I feel like that's exactly what happened. Like we got like a lot of comments or messages saying, "Oh, it reminds me of like like that show in 2011 or all of that." So it's cool because that's exactly what we wanted. So we're very, very happy that it worked.
Now, I understand that you weren't even really trying to set out to create an album, were you?
Not really. Like the initial plan was to just release a few songs for a festival that was supposed to happen in the UK in May 2020. And so obviously with the pandemic, those like the festival got canceled, and we turned those few singles into an EP, and an EP finally became an album. So the plan was just at the very beginning was just to write a few songs for a big festival.
Wow. Well, it really turned out great, man, because I mean, the songs that I've heard off of it so far, first off, the song Finn, what can you tell me about that one?
Oh, this one. Okay. There's a little bit of a backstory on this one. Because basically, we were supposed to release that fourth album like 5 years ago almost. Yeah. And so what happened was that 5 years ago, we sat down, we took a lot of like 3 months to actually write songs, the things we usually do before going into the studio. Yeah. And the thing is like the vibe was not there, and so that's why we decided to step back, get back to normal life, and here we are in 2021 with finally that new album. But the story about this specific song is that song was written actually like 5 years ago almost, and you can hear on that specific song there's like a little bit more of a electronic elements, almost like a house dance music, somehow. Yes. And that, like in 2017, that we actually wanted to put a lot of those elements into our music. And I think that's the only song that we kept from our like previous writing session in 2017. And I'm really, really glad how this one turned out. And I think it somehow, even if this one has a very specific vibe, I think it kind of like closed the album kind of like in a very like anthemic sort of way. So I'm very, very happy about this. And I'm really glad you like this one. Thank you very much.
No problem. Yeah. And you're right. It certainly does have that nice anthemic feel. It's a great way to finish off the album, I think. Another song that I really, really liked a lot, was really, really hooky and stuck with me, was the song Bitter. What about that one?
Yeah. Oh, this one. Okay. So this one, it's kind of like the complete opposite. This one was actually written last. That's the very last piece of the album. And that's funny because that's the first song of the album. But I kind of like did that on purpose, because when we started writing the actual like writing session for this album last year, we kind of like had the big picture in mind. And I said that like I already knew that we needed like 12 songs, and we would need like one in like a softer one, another one that should be heavier, and like I had the big picture in mind. And my plan was to actually write the missing, like the last piece of that big puzzle. I think that's the most complicated and most kind of like that's the kind of song where you need to do stuff on purpose, and you gotta do things in a very meticulously, if that makes sense. You gotta be very careful, because the last piece of the puzzle is the one that, that would kind of like glue your entire album all together. And I'm very, very glad, because that's the first single we released. With that album, and the idea was to definitely like get that first push of energy, that just says, oh, we are back. Like we are back in full force. We've been silent for a few years, but we are here. And I mean, just looking at the comments under like the first video and the first, just the comments we got on that song, like it really worked on everyone. I feel like that's kind of like the mission. I don't know. The goal was accomplished, I would say.
Yeah, it's like exactly the opposite of the song Finn, where it's the beginning of the album, and it's a great way to say that, hey, we're back. Because you were away for a while. There was a bit of a hiatus with the band. Were you saying, was it just that you just felt that you were creatively spent at that point, or what was it?
Yeah. So actually, it's kind of like the whole story that happened with with Finn. Back in 2017, when we were we just finished Warped Tour in 2016, and we were supposed to have like that big like writing session and then go back to the studio. And the thing that a lot of people need to understand is that at this time, we were on that constant roll. Like when we were not on tour, we were in the studio, and it was like nonstop,
Yeah.
And when we started writing songs at the end of 2016 and 2017, like we were tired. We were very exhausted from touring, and I kind of feel like we felt the need to actually like stop that for a minute. To actually, we needed a break somehow. Just to fuel some more like great artistic inputs, because at that time our expectations were like very high. We wanted to come up with something fresh, with something new. And the thing is, like, for a band like us in a niche genre, like in like the one we are in, it's kind of like it's a challenge to actually make your sound evolve, throughout your different albums, and
sure.
that's why we felt that need to actually to come up with something fresh. And the thing that happened was like we took the time. I think it was like 3 months of like songwriting. We at the end of that, we came to the conclusion that, the vibe was not there. The song the few pre-productions that we had were not like good enough. So we were basically not very stoked about what we were doing, So we were like, okay, let's take a little break. Let's get back to normal life. And we'll be back at it when the vibe will be there. And here we are in 2021, 2020, and the vibe was there. And we got that push of creativity that just like triggered like the songwriting of the entire album. But yeah, that we actually took 1 year of songwriting for this album, but it's obviously not 6 years. But I guess those 5 years of not silence, but like being more like quiet was actually needed at that time.
No, I understand completely. And it shows on the album that when you're coming back with such a strength. Now you were mentioning, of course, about, the subgenre of the band Chunk, No Captain Chunk. Is Easycore, is that still a label that you guys live with? Because I mean, I understand where that label comes from, but I hear elements of post-punk with you guys. I hear elements of metal with you guys. What would you consider the band?
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky question. Honestly, like I don't like labels, like to me, it just does not make sense to put like some artists, some bands into those like cases, and especially for a band like us, we're like, we always had that kind of like hybrid sort of music that just blends pop punk with metal. I mean, yeah, that was the idea, but as you can see with this new album, like there's a lot more than just that. There's like you said, there's like a lot of different influences in those songs, especially the new ones. And so honestly, I don't know. Like I'm okay with the label Easycore, but somehow it kind of, I don't know. It sounds almost like childish. So
yeah, almost maybe a little bit derogatory, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. I understand what you mean. Yeah. I mean, because straight up, you guys are just an awesome rock band, I think, so, I mean, to me, it's so frustrating that people have to just break down every single band like that,
Yeah. I agree. And honestly, like I've seen like a lot of different like labels that like people were like calling us, but I don't really, I don't see myself in any of those ones. And, I've seen like all of that. Like I've seen like Disneycore. I've seen like Easy. That one. I don't know. I never got an explanation for that one. I got Easy Crab. I don't know.
I've never heard of that either.
It's just weird. But, whatever. Like if people wants to, if it makes them like more comfortable listening to our music, just like by giving us like a label, whatever. Yeah. But I don't honestly, like when people ask me that question, like I honestly don't even know what to say. That's really it.
No, I hear you, man. Now, I've read before that you guys struggled a bit because there really isn't much of a rock scene in France. Is that still the case?
Yeah. I mean, France has never been like the country for rock and roll and rock music. However, we got like big bands. We got like Gojira. Yeah. We got like a few of them are actually. But yeah, I mean, French music is more popular in the like. We got like a lot of very, very famous DJs. Like we are actually famous with the more like an electronic scene. But I think the main problem we have in France is that I think there's a lot of very talented artists even like in the rock genre, but I don't think there's like enough structures like labels and that to make them evolve in the country. And I think that's one big issue. I mean, we've been lucky enough that we got signed with Fearless Records, which is an American label, and they decided from day one to actually build the band's career mainly in the US first and then in the rest of the world. But we are kind of like an exception in our own country.
Wow. It's pretty amazing too, because you had mentioned Gojira and of course you guys too. There's so many great bands that are there in France. And it's unfortunate that there really isn't more of a scene or an outlet for this talent, because there's great bands out there.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. And, we got like this huge metal festival that's called Hellfest.
Yeah.
And
right.
what's always like surprising me, like each year, is that, like in the mainstream medias, obviously, like you don't see metal, you don't see rock music at all. Like this is not a thing that's being promoted, even on the radio. Like it's just very, yeah. But when that kind of big festivals happens in France, like Hellfest, but there's also a couple of other ones. Like you can see how many people like go to that festival, and you're like it. To me, it does not make sense. It's as if like the live music was kind of like pulling people like that was. I don't know. I don't know. Like I feel like France has a huge potential, but like the structures. Like it can be like just labels, publishers, or anything like are just not there to build the scene properly here.
That's it. You know why most media and most, like just say normal FM radio, terrestrial radio is so dominant on simply country and pop and electronic that rock. I mean, but you get a rock tour come through like Slipknot or Metallica, or even a festival like you were saying, like Heavy Montreal. It is massive and the need is there. Yeah. So it's really, I really don't understand it myself, Bert,
I think I totally get that. And the thing is, I feel like in France, it's even more not understandable. But yeah, I don't know. I really think that rock music, it can be whatever. It can be like pop punk, or it can be metal, or whatever. I think it will always. I think a lot of people will always relate to that sort of musical anger, and if that makes sense, So you can see a lot of articles saying, "Oh, the rock music is dead, the scene is dead, or is dying at least." But honestly, I don't think so. Like it's just not promoted the right way.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Bert. Like that's it exactly. And you know what? I also think that eventually, somewhere down the line, there is going to be such a resurgence, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. Honestly, and this is something I kind of saw happening with like COVID. I feel like a lot of people, like with the pandemic that happened, went back, were like locked in their own like house. Yeah. So some people lost their jobs, and I kind of like saw a lot of even like some of my friends being like more and more frustrated every day. And they're like kind of like in that zone, in that mood where they have this sort of anger that they need to express somehow. And I feel like that's where the rock music kind of like a lot of people can relate to that kind of energy. And yeah,
it's a great coping mechanism,
Right. Yeah.
Now, all these years later, I mean, like a decade later, are you still happy with the band name Chunk No Captain Chunk? Do you still dig it? You still like it?
So so the thing is, it's a weird band name, and yeah, I totally get. Like, I think it's weird for us as French people, but it's for English speaking people, it's even more weird. The thing is, like, we started the band almost as not as a joke, but we were just like this group of teenagers that just wanted to have fun, Yeah. And we were all digging like the Goonies and all that, and we're like, okay, yeah, what about having like the a quote from that movie? But the thing is, like, it's weird, and I totally get the hate we can get from that, and that's fine, honestly. The thing is, like, it's in the end, it's noticeable because it's long. There's a weird punctuation, and when you actually read that, you're like, "What the fuck?" But it is how it is. I think it's way too late to actually change that.
Right.
But yeah, that's it.
I think it's a great band name because, again, I mean, I grew up with the Goonies and I love it. I think it's awesome and it stands out, you know. So, but Bert, thanks so much for joining me on the show today, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
No problem at all. All the best and take care.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
And there he is. That's Bertrand Poncet from the band Chunk, no Captain Chunk. And yes, they have the new album out called Gone Are the Good Days. You can check that out now via streaming or wherever you get your tunes from. All right, but I'm Scott Penfold, and this is the Loaded Radio podcast. And I'm now going from Paris to Las Vegas as I'm being joined by Johnny Rude from Loaded Radio, who is down there in, I'm guessing the sweltering hot that is Las Vegas. Johnny, are you there? Are you coming through?
What are you doing? We're all working.
I guess you heard Deftones canceled all of their touring for this year. Looks like a few other bands have canceled their touring as well. Light the Torch have canceled all their touring dates, John. And Nine Inch Nails just canceling all their touring dates for 2021 as well. A lot of bands are dropping off the touring circuit, which are you surprised by this?
Yeah. I'm not surprised at all, as we know what's going on. Again, I was saying a few weeks ago, we took, 20 steps forward. We've taken 100 steps back, and it's unfortunate. Yeah. Case in point, Corey Taylor from his solo tour, from Slipknot, did a solo thing. He came down with COVID, and he said, "This is the worst thing I've ever had in my life. I'm very, very sick." Boom, it happens, man. So I'm not surprised. And err on the side of caution. It sucks, man. It really does. I want to go see shows. I'm going to Guns N' Roses Friday, and I'm a little apprehensive because that's still happening. But at Allegiant Stadium here in Vegas, the Raiders just announced, if you want to see a football game here in Las Vegas, you have to be fully vaccinated or have a test. I think it's within 48 hours. And showing you're COVID free. I'm all for it, man. Again, you know where I stand on this and where you stand on it. I just think when they announced this Guns N' Roses show, things were good. The only thing they're implementing, from what I understand, is you have to come in a mask. But you know what happens once you're in and you sit down? The mask is gone. This will be the last concert at Allegiant, because I think the actual stadium is demanding that now too. And I think this Monday, August 23rd, the FDA, I think, here in the United States, is going to approve the Pfizer vaccine. So it's not going to be under emergency use. It's going to be fully approved, just like every other vaccine you see or any other medication you see commercials for on television. So that will change things. And what that allows companies to do, they can actually say, okay, look, you want to work here, you got to be vaccinated. If you don't, we're going to find somebody else to fill your slot. When you're kids, there's no polio because you got a polio shot. There's no mumps because you got a mump shot. There's all of these different diseases, smallpox, etc. You got vaccinated when you were a kid. That's why they're not around. I'm saying, let's just get healthy. So anyways, I'm not surprised that tours are being canceled, dude, because it's all about safety. And then you get a guy like Eric Clapton. He's on the exact opposite. Give me a break, dude.
Well, is he still even touring?
But it's just something to, I guess it keeps him in the media. That's why he said it. It's controversial. Sure. And then Valerie Bertinelli, Eddie Van Halen's ex-wife, she chimed in on how much of a knob this guy is because, Eddie did something years ago and a guitar thing, and Clapton kind of just denounced it as, tripe. Give me a break, buddy. Right, anyways, not to take anything away from Eric Clapton as a guitar player. Yes, he's fantastic. He's an originator, etc. But come on, buddy, you got some common sense. Let's use it here.
Well, there's a lot of artists as well. They're speaking look at Fred Durst. You've got Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. He's actually been pretty much coming out in the media demanding.
I was just going to bring him up. He's awesome. He's like, fuck you. Wear a fucking mask or get vaccinated.
That's true, man. They're on the metal tour of the year right now with Megadeth, which we'll get back to in a second as well. Hatebreed and Trivium are on this thing. A lot of metalheads going to be there. And you know what? I completely agree with Randy. Take precaution. This is a big tour and it's still going on. Hey, they're still choosing to go on. Like good on them. But just at least for the band's sake, at least, even if you're going to be a fucking stupid idiot for yourself, think of other people here. You know what I mean? So
that's the whole thing. That's it. If you don't care about yourself, that's one thing, but it's everyone around you.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And it's that selfishness, dude. It's a me thing. Yeah. Just think a little bit about this. if I get sick or if I am sick, I'm going to get you sick. And then you're going to take that home. You could be living with your grandmother, or you could have a kid who's got cancer. And then you come home from that concert because some jackass decided to say, it's all about me. I'm not doing it. I gave this guy COVID. He brought it home and killed his kid, or killed his grandmother or mother or something. And so Randy Blythe, you're saying that, man, angry. Yeah. Come on, man. This is a health issue. Okay. Yeah. Let's just be healthy. If you don't want to get vaccinated, it's your choice. Don't go. How about that? Don't go. You can't do things. You've got to take, I said this before, some of the burden. These unvaccinated people have to take some of this burden. In fact, all of the burden, because the vaccinated people are the ones trying to make this work. Go forward, make it happen. We should be all rocking out and going to concerts. No concert should be canceled because of this. This is stupid.
I agree. But you know, like I was saying, though, Megadeth, they're still continuing with the metal tour of the year. James Lomenzo back playing bass for Megadeth now. I guess you heard about that news as well. James returning to Megadeth. He was the guy who replaced Ellison before, and he's back now. So
that's right. He was from White Lion, Scott. He was the original bass player.
Yeah, he was the bassist for Black Label Society, then Slash's Snake Pit, and then, of course, Megadeth. And now he's back with Megadeth. But I didn't know he played with White Lion, dude. Mike Tramp.
I saw him, with Mike Tramp and Vito Bratta. At Rock and Roll Heaven, Toronto, I saw White Lion, and there was about 9 people there. Maybe 88.
Wow, really?
Something like that. Yeah, because it
was this before Wait and all that stuff came out?
This was that same record, but no one knew who they were. And actually, if you had an old hit parader and you read an interview with Mike Tramp, they ask about best gig and worst gig. And he says in that interview in Hit Parader or Circus, worst gig he ever played, Rock and Roll Heaven in Toronto, because nobody was there.
Because nobody showed up.
I was there.
You were there.
Fucking right. I was there, buddy.
But James Lomenzo, he's a great bass player too, man.
Great bass player, dude. He's well-versed. Yeah. Who cares? White Line, Jesus. I mean, they were a cool band for the time, but he moved on. You go into different bands. You don't stick in that one genre. No, he's a competent player. Again, wasn't in Megadeth before. Played with a lot of cool cats. Everyone knows him. And when they announced him, I was not surprised. I was like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Don't pull an Ellison. That's the thing. Don't pull an Ellison.
Don't be pulling an Ellison. I guess, David Lee Roth and Gene Simmons got a bit of a feud going on right now. Have you heard about that?
Yeah. You know what? Let's talk about that for a minute, because I got sent an emoji, and it was one of those little kids saying F you to Gene.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, what happened? What happened? So apparently, Gene carved him. Explain it to me, because I have not read too much about it, but let's discuss this.
Okay, well, I'll tell you right now. Gene was asked in a recent interview with Rolling Stone about David Lee Roth's absence from the upcoming End of the Road tour. And he said, it bears noting that during Dave's heyday, nobody did what he did. He was the ultimate frontman, not Robert Plant, not Rod Stewart, nobody. He took being a frontman way beyond anything. And then I don't know what happened to him. Something, and you get modern day Dave. I prefer to remember Elvis Presley in his prime, sneering lips back in Memphis, doing all that. I don't think I want to think of the bloated, naked Elvis on the bathroom floor. Well, I guess Dave took that as a carve, which essentially it was, and he replied simply with the picture of the kid giving the bird to Roth to Simmons. Ding, ding. There you go. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, what happened to Gene? We're Kiss fans here, but there's something happens when you get older. Yeah. A switch hits. You were super cool when you were young, and you were a trendsetter, but something happens at a certain age and you become, I don't know what it is. And why did Gene have to say that? I mean, I'm going to be honest. When something happened along the road with Dave, when you see Dave in interviews, and I love Van Halen, Roth Van Halen. That is my favorite. Nothing beats it.
No.
But something happened. I think even the guys in the band said the same thing. Something happened. You're not that cool guy anymore. Van Halen 1. How cool was Roth? Van Halen 2. All of through the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
It was David Lee Roth, man. But something happened.
I love the stuff he did with Vi and Sheehan and this and that. Like, he was still cool. He was still Roth. But I think something happened around like the early 90s, he was losing that mojo, I guess you could call it even. It just wasn't the same Dave anymore. Then he went off and he tried radio, that he was a paramedic for a while. And,
Right. But I'm just saying in general, I think in life with anybody, it's hanging on to that cool. Something happens and then all of a sudden you're not cool. And I got to say with Gene, what are you doing? Why are you trying to start this shit, dude? You're fine. You want to make it, if anyone can be made fun of, it's you. And I just thought that was low blow. Just come on, man. It's Dave, Eddie's dad, etc. I don't know. I thought that was out of line. Just you're throwing mud at something for no reason at all.
Well, I mean, honestly, if you think about it, Gene hasn't been cool since Creatures of the Night. So
yeah, and if that,
you know what I mean?
No, I know. It's again, it's really weird. But Gene should not have said it. And Dave's Dave, and Dave, I think, lives here in Vegas, or he was for a while, because he had that residency that he was trying to do. And a few friends went and saw it and said it was kind of weird. It's kind of cool. And then someone said, "Oh, he's a cartoon character up there," and that's what I mean. It's like you're trying too hard, buddy. Yeah. But then COVID hit and it killed everything. So yeah, speaking of Kiss, they got that residency, man. It starts December 27th here.
Yeah, coming up at Zeppo's Theater. That's going to be huge, dude. I think a lot of people are excited that Kiss is returning to Vegas. Yeah, and they're one of those bands, and I got to hand it to them, I guess, of course, that they are continuing their tour nonetheless. They're moving forward, So
yeah, well, we'll see what happens with that.
They're old guys, man. They really should be careful. They're not.
They got to be careful, but no one's around them. It's just them. The way it's all strategically placed. Whenever they come into somewhere, it's just them, so they'll be safe. But I mean, it's encouraging other people to come out. I mean, again, it's a fine line here. You want to see the live stuff. You want to go see tours. It's exciting. It's fun for humans, but at the same time, there's a risk involved, and hopefully nothing happens. Fingers crossed, right?
Well, you were mentioning Corey Taylor earlier. I mean, he had to essentially cancel his tour midway through. Behemoth and Arch Enemy had to postpone their European tour, Siege tour. There's a lot of tours just, they're falling like flies, dropping like flies. So don't be surprised. There could be changes coming up with this residency with any tours, man. I mean, who knows?
Dude, everything can change. It can change on a dime. I mean, we'll just have to see. Hopefully, more people are getting vaccinated, things happen. I mean, we'll see what happens. And I mean, who knows? This could be, I'm not going to use the word seasonal, but I'm saying it. It's like this influx of this Delta variant, and it's affecting people, but enough people get infected and some people get vaccinated. All of a sudden you get some sort of herd immunity between the two of them, right? Yeah. We'll see. And it slows down. I'm not a doctor, but I've read a heck of a lot about it because, it affects what we do. So I don't want to walk into something blindly. I want to know what I'm walking into and at least what I'm talking about, because some people are very ignorant to this and they don't care. And, we'll just have to see which way it goes in the next few months. It does suck though, dude, because there's a lot of shows I want to see. Again, I'm going back to this Guns N' Roses. I'm a little apprehensive. I'm going to be going, and of course I'll wear my mask, bring my mask, but is that going to do anything if I'm with that many people, 65,000 people? It is a stadium. It's wide, but who am I sitting beside? Who am I standing beside? Who's around me? It's not cool. I don't like the feeling.
I mean, honestly, I'll tell you, like a month ago, I was like, get me to a concert. At this point, I'm kind of like, I think I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. You know what I mean? Just me personally.
It's not worth it, dude. It's not worth it. That's the thing. There's going to be lots of shows. Anything that's canceled now is going to come back. So you can't still see it. It's not like you're missing out. Don't have FOMO, fear of missing out. Right, that is the worst. And people have that. And you grow up is all I can say. If you miss something, oh, wow, you get over it. But don't sit there and feel like you're missing out on things. And unfortunately, it does feel like that, but it'll come back. Yeah. Just a little left turn here. I was looking up or reading about Allison Chains. Yeah. It's, I think, 30 years since the Facelift record. And as I'm reading about this, that was a very cool record in my life. That band, when that came out, I was in San Diego. And I remember I was driving back and forth from LA to San Diego every day. I would listen to, they had a radio station called KNAC back in the day. And
it's still around, but I think it's only online now.
It's only online, yeah. And they had Ton Mastery. She was cool. She's passed on, but she was cool. But they used to at night play more obscure bands, and I would be driving home from LA going to San Diego, and I kept hearing this song. And I go, wow, this is a different sound. And I'm driving and I went, oh, it's kind of cool. And then it would go into, I don't know, Motley Crue or, whatever else was happening at the time. And this would have been 1990. I'd go back to LA, hang out, do my thing, whatever, and then drive home. And I hear this song again. And I go, who is this? And finally I caught the name, and it was Allison Chains. And I went, oh, that's kind of a cool name. And I started hearing this song, and it was Man in a Box. It just grew on me. And I remember calling a few friends back in Toronto and said, hey, man, there's this cool new band. You got to check this song out. Actually, I called AJ and I said, check this out. I think this is going to be huge. These guys started going on tour. They played with everybody, really obscure bands that didn't fit. But again, they're out on the road. They got signed out of that grunge scene before anybody. They were the pioneers. I mean, there were the Melvins and various other bands. Nirvana was around, but they had only independent records. These guys got signed to Columbia, and they were a hair band. They were called Alice N apostrophe Chains.
Yeah, and they used to wear drag. They used to wear drag, and they were a metal band. Yeah,
but they were a hair glam band back in the day. So it was Lane Staley. It was his band. And he said, he goes, let's keep the name, but instead of N apostrophe N, let's just go in Alice in Chains. What came after them was Nirvana. I was back in LA driving down Sunset Boulevard, and that song came on with that guitar lick, Smells Like Teen Spirit. I remember looking over at AJ going, it's over, dude. It's over. Yeah.
That's pretty much it, I guess.
Yeah, it's over. Let's, we got to rethink this. But it was Allison Chains who started it, and once the grunge thing happened, they were already going. I remember they came to Toronto on Monsters of Metal tour. Geez, I forget who was on the bill, but it was all sort of the old garb. But Allison Chains opened it. Slayer and somebody else was on it. They were headlining it. It was all uber metal. All the metal kids loved them because they were heavy. They were, again, very dark, doomy sort of thing lyrically. I mean, that song, Love, Hate, Love, it's killer. And Sea of Sorrow. And the first single off that record, believe it or not, was We Die Young.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't really take off, but it got them in the door. Anyways, that record changed my life, dude. I love it. And they became a massive influence on me. And I was just reading about it, so I thought I'd shoot that out there.
Yeah, definitely. They were a great band. I mean, I remember having the Sap EP. I remember when Dirt came out, I remember Tom Araya from Slayer was on that. I mean, for me, I think Dirt was really the album that got me into them, because when I'm putting that on, and then Them Bones is the first track, and it's just that riff, and it's pure metal, dude.
It's pure metal.
It's a great album. And then Rooster, and then there was Junkheads on there, and the song Godsmack. It's
a great record. Yeah, I was touring when that came out, and I think MTV they were debuting a brand new Alice in Chains song. Yeah, and I remember sitting in a hotel room and I heard Them Bones. I went, oh my god,
yeah,
they did it again.
Yeah, it's just an incredible band, man.
Killer.
I know.
Yeah.
John, we're doing another top 13 on loadedradio.com. This one, we're now taking votes currently for the top 13 greatest female fronted metal bands of all time. This one's already garnered tons of votes. I think we're around 4,000. And we're looking at bands like Arch Enemy in this moment, Nightwish, Within Temptation, Lacuna Coil, Butcher Babies, Hailstorm, Doro, Warlock, Epica. I mean, the endless bands.
Vixen.
Vixen's on there, buddy. They have 3% right now. We got Lita Ford on there, though. Definitely, she belongs there. Kitty's in there. Vixen, Flyleaf, Runaways, Pretty Reckless, Plasmatics, L7. John, remember them?
Yes, I very well, Scott. I think I work with them, believe it or not, or hung out with them, something along the lines. If I've sat here for another 5 minutes, I could get a story. But yes, I remember L7. The song Andre.
Those guys.
I did a show. I opened for Girls School.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome, dude.
I know, buddy.
Just to remind you, check out loadradio.com. Get your votes in because we're doing this sort of like every month now. The top 13 lists that we're doing for Loaded Radio. And this one, I guess who you feel are the top female fronted bands of all time. And then Johnny and I will go over the results and post them as well in about 30 days. So we got to get ready for that, Johnny.
And some of these glam bands, they were not girls fronting them. So stick to the women.
Yeah, there's no Poison on there.
No, there's no, Brunette and all these other bands. And
that's right.
Lipstick Fix and Kife like that. So yeah, it's only women.
All right, it's Scott Penfold, Johnny Rude with you here on Loaded Radio. And hey, as always, don't forget, check out loadradio.com like we were just talking about, as we have your hard rock and metal news updated there daily, and as well the 24-hour stream radio station where there's going to be a lot of changes happening on the station as well, a lot of upgrades, a lot of new features coming out. So definitely you're going to be wanting to check that out. Probably around Labor Day that will be launching. Am I forgetting anything, John?
Yeah, I would just say chime into the top 13 best fronted female artists. I'm curious to see what the results are because there are some wicked cool metal fronted bands by hot chicks, smoking chicks, talented. So I think that's a good one, man. We can all pick our favorite metal band, but this one you got to think a bit because there's so many cool ones out there. So yeah, that'll be awesome, man. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to give anything away as of yet, John, but looking at the votes right now, I am actually really quite surprised at who's in the lead. But we'll have to wait and see who that is.
Have to wait and see, man. Don't tell me. I love the surprise, man. I love to see when it gets released and you're saying it. And because I have something totally different than you would have and vice versa. So that'll be interesting.
So on behalf of Johnny Rude and everybody else at Loaded Radio and loadradio.com, we'll talk to you again next week right here on the Loaded Radio podcast. Loaded Radio.